The Private Label Pod with your host Paul Mooney, brought to you by Private Label People.
You just listen and leave the rest up to us.
Welcome to the Private Label Pod. I'm your host Paul Mooney. This week's guest was Noel Murray. He dropped in and gave us a little bit of an insight into his working week.
Get involved, have your say, ask us a question, or leave us a voice message by heading on over to privatelabelpeople.com/podcast.
Noel, we have had to wrestle you away from your laptop into the confines of the podcast studio, but I appreciate you giving us your time. How are you?
I am very well, and I'm very appreciative of the break from the spreadsheet world that I have been somewhat sucked into recently.
The old square eyes setting in, were they?
They were. I was having to take a step back from the screen. I was just getting absorbed by it.
Yeah, I can imagine what you do is it's brain sapping, and you have to. Funny enough, we were talking about focus earlier on with Robert, and I can imagine that it requires a lot of that. But no, it's something you've sort of became as this reporting expert. Is that something that you took on board personally and sort of said to yourself, in order to succeed, that you would really need to get to grips with reporting? Is that how it happened?
Yeah, a wise man said to me not that long ago that I would need to learn how to respect the spreadsheet. Didn't realize he was meaning quite as literal as it's turned out, but joking aside, it is in this business something it's very, very useful. I'm only really understanding the power of data and actually getting your data, seeing it in black and white, and in report format that you can easily understand it and see what your products are doing in your business, or even, in fact, even more important, what they're not doing, and what they could do for you if you had more of them. The power of that is definitely something that's resonating with me at the minute, and I suppose that's where I'm going to say this word loosely, but that's where the excitement of looking at all this data comes in. But in a serious way, it does, because the picture becomes clear, and I think that's something that when you join the business or when you start this business, you want to do it because it's the life of a laptop lifestyle. It's people want to travel, people want to leave the rat race, the 9-to-5 job, all those things. But you need to have a clear goal. You need to have certain things in place, and the data, even from the word go, if you are only starting with your first product now, is going to help immensely if you've got it there. And I think a lot of people started and didn't have it.
Okay.
So therefore couldn't really plot out where they wanted to go and set achievable goals. But I think with all the data that we're pulling together for people now, that's something that's actually a real possibility. You can do that quite easily and quite quickly.
Yeah, well, obviously it's hugely important, but it's quite funny because it's hugely important, but yet so many people don't want to go there. They can't think of anything worse. But then on the flip side, you get people that really enjoy doing reports. I know you're one of those. I can tell by looking at your face.
Yeah. It is, but that's actually the really good thing about privately owned people. When you start to do this, you actually then see the different mix of people we have, because there's people and partners out there that some of them are coders, some of them really love the spreadsheet, really love the data, and for others it's the worst thing in the world. It's the last thing they want to do. And I probably at one point was more towards the latter, but do you know what? It's a fear thing. You think, I'm not going to know how to get the data. I'm not going to know what to do with the data, because you were never shown, or you hadn't that experience. But actually, when you get into it, once every 2 weeks, can you spend 20 minutes doing a few easy reports, and then the system that's been built does the heavy lifting, and what you're then given is a clear picture of what to do with your business and with your products and how to look after them. That's why it's a must. It's something that people have to do if they want to move forward. And it is a joyous thing. And I know we're going to laugh when I say that, but getting that information down so easy, so quickly, and then seeing what's coming back to you, that is a good thing. It is a good thing, so.
I can imagine. I think you'll get a lot of appreciation because even somebody who loves doing reports, they might only be doing their own, whereas you're now helping other people with theirs. But does that give you a little bit of satisfaction whenever you're able to help other people and say, well, look, this needs addressing, you're maybe doing something wrong here, or on the flip side, you're doing something great and letting them know that it's looking really good?
You nearly think you were watching me today and seeing some of the conversations, Paul. And you weren't. I'll stress that you weren't here when
Yes,
I was doing this. But it was today. We're as you know, we're constantly producing new parts of the reporting system. We're growing it. We're evolving it. There's that was a call we did last night with almost 30 people turned up to watch us talk about the next evolution of what they're going to see. And I was doing an amendment to everybody's reporting folder today over the last 6 hours, maybe even 7 hours.
Ouch.
But actually, when I uploaded the new version of the report, I actually commented on, it's pretty cool when you see the data just fill in. You click a button, the next thing, bang, it's all there. Or you see something that's really quickly a really big fix for somebody that doesn't even know maybe that there's something missing here, and that is actually a fun thing. Some people think they've broke the system or they're not doing it right. Actually, some people were making copies, and maybe it helps us because our instructions to them aren't always the best, or we maybe take things for granted because we're doing them. And I know certainly on the call last night there was I think 4 or 5 people who have been doing the work, but they've just done it in a copy of a file that we didn't know existed. Mm-hmm. So we put them in the right direction, and bang, they now have all of this information that they weren't seeing.
Do you think maybe sometimes people get a little bit afraid that you're going to start going through the reports and you're going to see things and go, what have you been doing here? What? Yeah, because it would probably be my mindset. I have to say, I'd be like, I'm a bit worried about what they're going to churn up here, and they're going to be looking at me like I'm some sort of an idiot.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an element to that. I know even when I go into my bi-weekly or monthly meetings with a certain Mr. Ricky, I do so even now with a certain amount of trepidation, and I shouldn't. But it's natural, I suppose, for humans to do that. But I think we've talked about this before. If you see the data, you're fearful that it's going to show that you're not doing well enough. But that's okay. Nobody's going to crack this thing overnight. I've been in the Amazon world for 2.5 years, and the stuff I'm still learning. In fact, the stuff I've learned over the last 3 or 4 months, especially when private label people are starting to get traction, has been immense, both in reporting, but also the care and what you need to do to the products. I didn't know any of that before. Mm-hmm. So my reports aren't fantastic, but they are getting better. So I get the fear that people have, but we're not here to judge. We're here to help.
Yeah, of course. And do you think people get a little bit negative whenever they run the reports and they do see a poor reflection? Is it difficult to bring them back to positivity from that a sort of element of, oh no, this isn't maybe looking as good as I thought it was going to look when I see it down on paper here?
Yeah, I would say it's another natural human response that would be the case. But that's why we're here. Because in the past, I would say there was nowhere to go to ask, what do I do with this thing? How do I make the product perform better? But that's exactly why we're doing all this. That's why me personally, I'm in front of the spreadsheets for so long, or Ali's doing streams, or SO's reaching out, is because we want to give people the information that we know about how to resurrect the product, how to make those reports better, so that the fear disappears. But there's always going to be something to work on. That's the thing. You have to be realistic. Not everything you're going to touch is going to turn into gold. Some products will do better than others. Some will be seasonal. Some maybe just naturally go through a dip. And maybe it's the end of the life cycle of that product. But you have to look at it. If you don't look at it and you put your head in the sand, you're just going to cause yourself bigger problems, I think, down the line. Better to be open and look at these things.
And of course, there'll be lots of times you run reports and it's great and it's all looking rosy too. But it's one of those things. I think if you had the urge them to focus on something to bring back that real positivity, if it's not looking like they want it to, I mean, there's lots of things you can point to, isn't there? The fact that they've got this far, because if they've got data, that means that they've got a product and they've maybe had a sale, maybe not had sales, but they've got data. So that's something that you can point them towards.
It's something I think that I'm going to say as a team we need to actually maybe talk to people more about is celebrating goals. And celebrating goals will be different for everybody. But I mean, it could be a real simple thing like, as you say, you've brought a product to market. So you've sourced the thing, you've had it manufactured, you have moved it to wherever it needs to be in the world. They're all really good, not goals, but they're all really good wins. Mm-hmm. It's those wins. Like we would talk about wins out there on a daily basis. A win for us could be getting a new bank account set up, or having a problem with a bank, or having a problem with Amazon with a product listing or an image, and you get that solved. It might take you a day. Mm. It's just one of those things, but that's a bloody good win.
Yeah,
and we need to celebrate those more.
Of course, it's about achievements, isn't it? And it's getting a list of those achievements and reminding yourself that you've done well. People like Ali, you've just mentioned Ali. Ali famously reminds us that he's not been great with numbers in the past, but it gives him so much more confidence now that he can understand them compared to the fact that he didn't understand them properly years ago. And you must see that also yourself in terms of, somebody's struggled with numbers or they're not great at it, but you've given them a bit of a helping hand. And now all of a sudden they're getting the confidence. They're seeing where their business is going. They're seeing that traction, and they're now looking at it and saying, "All right, I'm actually starting to understand here what these numbers mean," and it gives them more confidence.
I think you see that every day. You see more and more people commenting, and we get even DMs now where people say, "Thanks very much. That now makes sense." The light bulbs are going off in people's heads. How much that data and seeing the numbers helps. Like Ali is funny. We all know Ali is the most chilled person on the planet, but you'll see him even crack into a smile when he talks about numbers and figures these days, and it's like, okay, Ali, calm down.
Yeah, that's true.
But it is true, it's there's that sense of that this is so important, and when you do get it, you start to look at it, there is a sense of happiness that comes with it.
Yeah. Well, we have to find happiness somewhere in our day-to-day lives. I think everybody that's out there, if they are struggling with their reports and their numbers, they have you on hand to help and assist, and they're lucky to have you. So thank you, Noel. Thanks for coming in and giving us your time.
Not a problem at all. Anytime, Paul. You see me with my head in my hands in front of a spreadsheet, you can grab me for a podcast. More than welcome.
You're like the maths teacher going through the bad homework. All right, Noel. Thank you.
Get involved, have your say, ask us a question, or leave us a voice message by heading on over to privatelabelpeople.com/podcast.
Thank you to Noel. That was a great insight into the world of reports. I hope you gained some really good knowledge there. And obviously, Noel will keep you right going forward. So if you need anything, you should reach out to him. As always, let us know what you thought of the podcast in the comments below, and we will see you next time.